Okay, hello YouTube. Today I'm just going to show you how to handle a position that I see come up a lot, especially in scholastic chess, especially with a lot of amateur players. It's when they're having to play against the French defense. So it happens after e4, e6, d4, d5, and then naturally here, it's pretty amazing. Like, even if you look at the Lichess database, like, probably the most common move among just regular players is just to push this pawn from e4 to e5. I guess it's just the natural reaction of every chess player when they first see this, especially amateur players, is just, okay, I'm playing the French, I want to gain some space. Interestingly enough, like if you look at master games, it's not even remotely the most common move. Actually, knight c3 and knight d2 are by far and away the most common, and then e5 is kind of considered like a third kind of try. But knight c3 and knight d2 are considered sort of the main lines here. But anyways, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to have e5, and then we're going to have c5, and then we're going to have pawn to c3, and we're going to kind of build this little chain. Now, most players figure this much out, and then after knight c6, they go, okay, my pawn's being attacked, I guess I better defend it. So knight c6 and knight f3 are both very natural, and then queen b6 happens. And this is where most amateur players will blunder, in my experience. And it's this weird psychological thing that happens, and I can't really explain it other than just to say it's just something that you have to learn how not to do. And it's not just in the French, it happens a lot in double D pawn openings as well. It happens a lot in d4, d5, where they start to notice that there is a problem with developing their queenside pieces. And they start obsessing over, well, how do I develop my queenside pieces? Like, they notice that this is a problem, and they notice that this is a problem. So this is actually a good thing. You're noticing the problems in the position. But what they don't realize is if you don't have an immediate solution to this problem, and this is just a good lesson for chess, it's also kind of a good lesson for life, you have other problems in this position that do need to get solved. And actually, in any opening, it's always more of a priority to get your king safe and get your king to safety. That's always the number one priority. Solving the problem of how to develop your queenside is not remotely a priority right now. It's a problem, and eventually you do need to solve it. But it's not the priority. The priority is just getting your king castled, and that is the critical priority. So here you'll see a lot of mistakes from amateur players, like really common mistakes. I've seen a lot of players play like bishop e3 and hang the pawn on b2. I've seen a lot of players play knight on b to d2, and then of course hang the pawn on d4. This is a really, really common mistake where we just lose a whole pawn. Really what you should be doing is just finishing your development on the king side. You can very easily play bishop e2. The queen maintains communication with the pawn. Then a lot of times people playing the black pieces will play something passive, like they'll play bishop d7 just because they like maintaining this tension, because they have a lot of good experience with people making some sort of mistake here with either knight d2 or bishop e3 and hanging material. And you can actually get a pretty huge advantage with the white pieces by just not doing that. You can just go ahead and castle. And then at this point, they really do need to do something in the middle. They need to play cd4. Actually, they really should have played cd4 last move. But if they delay that an additional move, like if they play rook c8, white's actually getting a pretty sizable advantage here with d captures c5, bishop c5, and then b4. And then after bishop e7, white has a pretty nice space advantage. Actually, according to the engine, the best move is knight a3 here. And white is doing incredibly well. You can see all the people that found knight a3 did absolutely incredibly well. Like, actually, even in the Masters database, the one game where somebody played knight a3, they did incredibly well. Although other moves are pretty common here, especially, like, I think a3 is a move that I've played in the past, which is a really solid positional idea of just like playing bishop e3 and bishop d4, and then shuffling this knight to d2 and b3. But the actual best move, and I'll go ahead and put the engine on, even though this is pretty good, like a3 is plus 0.7 or whatever, the actual best move is supposed to be knight a3, is supposed to be pretty solid. But a3 is pretty close. And actually, I like a3 just in terms of the idea. And then actually after knight h6, really what you should be doing is you should be taking, you should be playing bishop takes h6, takes on h6, and then rook e1 to just sort of defend here. And white's doing spectacularly well here. Black's got a bad pawn structure, black's got just a bad position in general. White's doing pretty well. You can see the computer's actually giving this as close to +1 for white. You know, black is just kind of struggling here. So that's how you handle it. You just develop your king side, and then after you finish developing your king side, then you figure out what to do in the middle of the board. And of course, when they exchange early, like if they play cd4, cd4, now your development becomes a little bit more obvious. Basically, now you know that you have a good place for your knight. You still know that your basic plan is to castle, etc. So now your plan for developing your pieces becomes a little bit more obvious. And that's kind of how you play the advanced variation of the French, but it's also how we solve this problem of when they're putting this pressure with the queen b6 hitting d4 and b2, how do we finish our development without losing any material or having anything bad happen? Well, anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you learned something new about chess, and I hope you can use some of these ideas in your own games. Thank you very much for watching.